right, we are now live. Elon Musk has just become the world's first trillionaire. We know, of course, that his net worth is spread out amongst the value of his companies and not just sitting in a vault. But a lot of people want to take it from him somehow. Anyway, it's the politics of envy, and it is poisonous. What's not poison, though, is the joy that the U.S.-hosted World Cup soccer tournament is bringing our European guests. They are marveling at American abundance, and it's been a joy to see our country through their eyes. And the countdown to 250 brings us Paul Revere's Midnight Ride. And for Unhinged, like I said, oh boy, are people mad about Elon's success. All of this on episode 541 of the In the Tank podcast. All right, welcome to the In the Tank podcast. I'm Linnea Luke, your host, and as always, we also have Jim Likely, Vice President and Director of Communications at the Heartland Institute, Sam Karnick, Senior Fellow at the Heartland Institute, and Chris Talgo, Editorial Director and Socialism Research Fellow, also at the Heartland Institute. Before we get started, if you want to support the show, you can go to heartland.org/inthetank and donate there. Please also click the thumbs up to like this video, and remember that sharing it helps break through some of YouTube's suppression. Even just leaving a comment helps us too, but you could do all of those things, and that would be terrific. If you're an audio listener, you can help us out by leaving a nice review. Okay, guys, we all had competitions this week, I think, that we all participated in, except for maybe Sam. I don't know if he did. No? All right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I set a cue for me to mention that Chris and I on Monday participated in a golf scramble. And there it is. There's a picture of all of us there. Yeah, I look pretty slovenly. I'm sorry. It was after about 12 holes. I was a little tired, but we had a great time. And it was all for a good cause. It was to support Tunnels to Towers, the charity that helps the families of those first responders killed at 9/11. So great cause and a great time.
Yep. And I shot in a Sporting Clays tournament this weekend. Also a charity event for an individual who passed away, his family, and it was really cool. Although not cool temperature-wise, though. It was like 90 degrees. But we still had a great time. I shot terribly, but I'm gonna move us along here because I don't want to.
Jim failed to mention that we shot 300 par. That's very good.
Yes, very good, especially considering I hadn't played golf in about 8 years. So yeah, we did pretty well.
Yeah, we did.
All right, so we are going to jump right into Unhinged here. Elon Musk has a lot of haters, a lot of haters. So our Unhinged topic today is directly related to our main topic. We have some clips for you guys in case you think I was exaggerating about how mad various liberals and socialists and whatever are about the news that Elon Musk has just become the world's first trillionaire, first and only, and probably first and only for a long time too. I think the next nearest is significantly below $1 trillion still. So, Jim, I think we have a clip here. Let's grab Musk hate.
Is probably one of the most unintelligent billionaires I have ever met or seen or witnessed.
Being a freeloader and a selfish and disrespectful one, and for misappropriating black vernacular for misogynistic purposes, Elon Musk is the absolute worst.
The world's richest freeloader evidently has a very thin skin.
Elon Musk kind of turned out to be and I don't want to be driving a car built and designed by
Elon Musk is incompetent. He's incompetent. He's a thief. He's a Nazi.
Musk is a pathological liar. He's a criminal. He's a sociopath and a ghoul.
Cannot say that someone like Elon Musk is an intellectual. Really what he's up to is, snorting ketamine and tweeting at all hours of the day and night.
The guy's a joke, right? He really is a joke. The more I hear him talk, I'm astonished at how dumb Elon Musk is. But look at what he did with SpaceX and Starlink and all these companies. He's got to be somewhat intelligent. The more I hear him talk, the more I'm like, holy fucking shit. This dude tripped over his dick and became successful.
So, anyway, is that Sam Harris? Man, how far have some people who used to be considered intelligent fallen? That's what TDS will do. But yeah, so that's very pleasant and nice. And we also have this longer video by Elizabeth Warren, Lizawatha, as we like to call her, Pocahontas. And she had words for when Elon became a trillionaire here.
Elon Musk is officially the billionaire.
Whoops.
Think about that. We're living at a time when more and more people are just hanging on by their Elon Musk is officially the world's first trillionaire. Think about that. We're living at a time when more and more people are just hanging on by their fingernails to survive in this economy. And Elon Musk has more money and more wealth than anyone in human history. I want to be clear. This is not just some fluke. It is a feature of a rigged economy. Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill cut healthcare for millions of Americans to give guys like Elon bigger tax breaks. The tax code rewards CEOs for firing workers and replacing them with AI. Loopholes have allowed Jeff Bezos to pay an effective tax rate lower than a Boston public school teacher. And we are left with a country where a handful of billionaires at the top pop champagne in their $300 million yachts, while working people take on even more shifts to try to pay off their student loan debt. The top 1% of U.S. earners now have more wealth than the entire middle class. We need to overhaul our tax code. We need a wealth tax. And it's about time that corporations paid their fair share. Today's marker should be a wake-up call that enough is enough. Time to make change.
Just a quick FYI, she made that video in the back of a limousine on their way to a huge fundraiser with millionaires and billionaires. Just want to make sure that everyone knows that.
Yep, and she flies private all the time as well.
Yeah, it is
What
always
a, what a
funny.
hypocrite.
It is always funny that, you know, the people who we see the most angry at Elon Musk in particular, not just for his politics that they think are wrong and bad or whatever, but because of his wealth in general, are all wealthy people, which is kind of funny. I talk a little bit more about that in our main topic today, but it is, I don't know, it's wild to watch someone sitting in a limousine talking about how bad it is that Elon Musk has all this net worth. And again, it's not like all of this money is sitting in a vault somewhere, right? Like, this is just the worth of all of his companies combined, all the companies that he runs, and all of the shares of those companies that he owns. You can't tax him on that.
But
Right?
you know what they didn't mention? The fact that hundreds of his employees, from janitors to engineers to welders, became instant millionaires. And they didn't say that actually SpaceX started in like a small little garage years and years and years ago, just like Amazon started in Jeff Bezos's garage when he was trying to sell books on the internet. So I take such umbrage with how they try to portray this as he's just this freeloader. Did you also notice that all they did was ad hominem attack him? They didn't have one actual point where they could say, this is where we have an issue with. And it's so funny because I remember before 2023-ish, 4-ish, they loved Elon Musk. So as soon as he turns on them and says, hey, you guys, the left has gone way, off the deep end. I'm going to be more centric. What do? They hate him.
They started to hate him as soon as he bought Twitter and turned it into X and freed communications in the country, because that really hit the mark. which is this. What is wealth? Wealth is power. Wealth is power. As Linnea pointed out, all Elon Musk has is, well, he has a lot of things, of course, to which he has the legal right, the houses and the cars and the like, expensive watches, all those things. Those are all real, no question about it. He has those things. But what makes him a trillionaire is that he has authority, he has power over very, very big businesses. They're very successful, at least in the sense of raising the stock value of those businesses. And so people hate him because what they want is they want power themselves. And it's the people who are closest to having power, who fancy themselves as having power, and whose power they believe is based on their righteousness as better human beings than the rest of all of us. Those people hate anyone with power more than anybody else in the world does. Now, one thing that we have to understand is, what does this $1 trillion mean? $1 trillion really, it's just a number. But where does that number come from? That number comes from the very rigged system that Liz Warren was talking about, and she is one of the ones who rigged it. This system where the amount of money going into the US stock markets came from a particular series of events, which was in 2007, we had a liquidity crisis in the United States and around the world. And the government so-called solved it by creating, well, through a number of devices, all of which concentrated more power in the government, especially the US federal government. But also they solved it by creating a system where the money supply would grow rapidly, perpetually. And what has happened is, around the world, people have needed to get dollars in order to sell to America. And so as you put all those things together, what happens is the value of American equities, stocks, goes way up. And it goes up and up and up. So these are numbers. They're not real things. They're numbers that are perverted by the very system that Liz Warren helped create. And Liz Warren, remember, was the person who created the Consumer Financial Protection Board. And that is a system that strengthens the power of big banks, big financial institutions, big this, big that, but above all, big government. So this is all about building a piñata that they can whack at and prove to the frankly the dimwits of the world that greedy people are controlling them. Well, it is true that greedy people are controlling them, but those greedy people are almost all in the government, not in business. Simple fact.
Yeah, I'll move us into our main topic here, just so that.
Can I jump in here a little bit first? Yeah. I mean, I thought something about that because I did pick the clip that Elizabeth Warren video triggered me. Something about that when she says enough is enough. Who the hell does she think she is? What do you mean enough is enough? I mean, like a month ago, Elon Musk was only, I guess, maybe an 800 or a 700 billionaire. And as soon as he gets over this magical arbitrary $1 trillion, now enough is enough. That's not for you to say. Who the hell do you think you are? If she actually thinks she's the commissar and the grasper of all wealth to distribute as she sees fit. What about Sergey Brin from Google? He aligns with your ideology. I guess he gets to keep his money. How about Alex Soros? Inherits his father's fortune. I guess he gets to keep his money too. He's not going to be run down in the streets. 15 minutes ago, relatively, Elon Musk was among the favorite super wealthy person of every Democrat in this country because he contributed to the Democratic Party. They loved Teslas. And then as soon as he says, you know what, these economic policies by the Democrats are ruinous, I'm going to back this other guy named Donald Trump. As soon as that happened, suddenly Tesla stinks, as we said in the first video we saw, who was senator from Arizona, Mark something, forget his last name for some reason, saying that Teslas suck. It's like, no, well, yesterday you thought they were awesome. And then, of course, they send their brown shirts out there to set Tesla dealerships on fire. Don't you guys remember all of that? But again, enough is enough. hell with you, Elizabeth Warren. Musk stole nothing from anybody. He did not steal his wealth. He did not manipulate currencies on the global market for his wealth. He exploited not a single person. And as Chris pointed out, his workers got invested in SpaceX. And now you have welders and janitors who have generational wealth now, thanks to backing a really smart horse in Elon Musk. The people that are criticizing him, especially those in Congress, have created nothing of value ever in their entire lives. Not one single thing. Elizabeth Warren, you guys are in charge of a $7 trillion annual federal budget. And I think we now have, what is it, Sam, $40 trillion national debt. Not a single one of the problems that we have spent trillions of dollars on every single year in this country have been remotely solved. In fact, they've all been made worse. Healthcare, homelessness, education, poverty, all of it. And you think you're going to get some sort of populist groundswell to give the federal government even more money through a so-called wealth tax, which isn't actually even taxing wealth. It's like the movie Minority Report, which punished pre-crimes. A wealth tax is punishing pre-wealth because, as you said, Linnea, he is not, Elon Musk is not Scrooge McDuck, doing backstroke through his big pile of gold. That's not how it works. He's worth $1 trillion because he has built an innovative car company. And really more than that, it's because of SpaceX, which nobody else had the balls to do. He risked his own money, his reputation, his future, and he worked his ass off to make getting to space about 10% of what it cost 10 years ago. And for that is an amazing innovation that, frankly, nobody else on Earth probably could have pulled off. And you should not care that Elon Musk is a trillionaire. What you should care about is government trying to seize it because they say enough is enough. Socialism never works. Even the soft socialism we have in this country, in the United States right now, obviously has not worked. I say huzzah for Elon Musk. And I used to criticize him a lot more. Now he's become one of my favorite people, not just because of what he does, but because of the enemies he has drawn.
Yeah. Well, like you said, Jim, Elon's like net worth comes from the companies that he runs. He's fairly diversified, one might say. He doesn't have swimming pools full of gold, but he could. And for those of us also who are not trillionaires, there is another way to diversify our savings and invest in our actual earnings, and that is with precious metals. A lot of people in conservative and libertarian and even just emergency prepper spaces will hit you with ads for buying precious metals. All of them are correct that they are a good investment, but you want to be careful about who you buy your metals from. There are a lot of sketchy companies. You could go downtown in whatever town you live in and buy metals from, the nice libertarian who runs the gold shop nearby. And that's a good way. But at In the Tank, we trust Advisor Metals over all of those other guys. And that's because we know that the person running the place is the absolute best of the best and is a great friend of liberty. Ira Bershatsky is the owner and managing member of Advisor Metals. He has decades of experience in precious metals and is the only person in the physical precious metals industry who has the Commodities Futures Trading Commission federal registration. What does all that mean for you? Well, it means everything that Ira or a member of his team says to you has to be factual. So there's no sketchy sales pitch or bait and switch. Ira is held to the highest ethical standards, and there is full transparency, which is way too lacking in other places nowadays. If you want to diversify your investment portfolio and your savings, if you're planning for retirement and are concerned about economic uncertainty, if you want a tangible asset that is easy to buy and sell, you can secure your assets with a wide range of physical precious metals by getting in touch with our friend Ira at Advisor Metals. Ira will make it very easy for you. Please visit climaterealismshow.com/metals and you can leave your information for Ira and get started with investing in precious metals and expand your current portfolio. Go to climaterealismshow.com/metals, METALS. And when you talk to Ira, make sure you let him know who sent you. That helps us while you're helping your financial future by diversifying with precious metals at Advisor Metals. All right.
Hey,
Haha,
do
idiot.
I get an assist for that segue?
Yeah, you do.
Like in soccer? Yeah.
You do. Uh, all right. So, Elon Musk, the very first trillionaire. I have a little bit to read to us or to our audience here from Forbes. On Friday, Forbes declared Elon Musk as the world's first trillionaire as SpaceX's stock began trading on the NASDAQ at $150 per share, giving the company a nearly $2 trillion market cap. Forbes estimates that the IPO has boosted Musk's fortune to $1.1 trillion as of Friday morning. His net worth rose by $188 billion to an estimate $982 billion on Thursday evening when SpaceX priced the IPO at $135 per share. Looking at Musk's wealth portfolio, the SpaceX chairman, CEO, and chief technical officer owns 4.8 billion shares of SpaceX, worth $715 billion, and has another 350 million stock options worth $50 billion, giving him a 38% stake in the company. Reuters reported that his net worth is more than the combined wealth of the next three richest people in the world, which would be Larry Ellison, Larry Page, and Sergey Brin. Not very many people, as we discussed at the top of the show here, are happy about this. Reuters couldn't help but bring up in their article over and over again that people do not like him. And Reuters made it very clear that they also do not like him. Instead of just celebrating or even just really not caring very much, which I think would be most sane people's response to finding out that there is a person who's a trillionaire, many on the left are miserably upset. And that brings us to this idea that the politics of jealousy, seething rage at seeing other people being very successful, animates much of the socialist and communist policies. So Graham Plattner, and this is the tweet that we have here, the Nazi-tattooed Senate candidate in Maine, tweeted rather ominously, Elon Musk just became the world's first trillionaire. Let's make sure he's also the last. What does that mean? I don't know. Ironically, Chris, Elon might not be, he might not even be a trillionaire without leftist government intervention, like Sam was pointing out earlier, too. Tesla might not have started in the first place without the promise of electric vehicle mandates and all of the subsidies that made them more affordable. Still, it's Elon's ability to actually just look ahead and see what's cool and see what startups are cool and that actually have something going for them, that he invests in and hypes to gain public interest, so that other people can also see that these companies are cool. That's pretty much how he's created this $1 trillion worth of business assets and these employees and products and services. Why on earth, other than the fact that his politics are different than theirs, and not even that different than theirs? He's talking about universal basic income pretty frequently. So why do they hate his wealth in particular? They don't care about Bill Gates or Soros or whatever.
I think this all stems from the fundamental fallacy of socialism and collectivism, which is everything's a zero-sum game. Everything is not a zero-sum game. In the United States of America, Elon Musk came here and he created wealth. He created SpaceX. He created X. He created Tesla. That's what these people don't understand. They don't understand that he came here and he created those companies that then created customers in demand for those products and services. That's what this is all about. So this is, like you said, this is the politics of envy. That is one of the seven deadly sins. And sadly, these people, they don't want to actually go and be productive and take risks and like Elon Musk did and work 24/7 and all the pressure, all the stress and anxiety that comes with that. But then they want to pillory him and say, give us what you have. That's not fair. That's why I can't stand socialism, because it's all about demonizing success and then saying you didn't earn that, and we who had nothing to do with that, we should just get it. And that's not fair.
Yeah, and Sam too. I wanted to know, because it's kind of remarkable. We talk about inflation. We talk about all sorts of stuff. Elon Musk is a trillionaire in US dollars right now. This isn't like Zimbabwe money. Although one could argue that we are slowly attempting to catch up. I mean, one of the biggest arguments that I see all the time is that, especially from the left and sometimes from right wingers who have kind of progressive economic leanings, that it's not possible to earn that kind of net worth ethically, is what they'll say.
Right. That's just absolutely wrong. And the reason it's wrong is because you can't unethically earn $1 trillion. You can't do it because everything that's unethical, frankly, is illegal, because everything's illegal. So if you were to defraud people, so let's say the only amount of wealth you could earn honestly is what number? What number is that? Is it 200 billion? So Larry Page is a thief too. We don't know what the number is, but let's say it's 200 billion. Then the other 900 billion was earned unethically. How did he get that? How did he get that? How is it that Liz Warren, the person who designed the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that arose in 2009, how is it that she didn't catch him? How is it that that bureau didn't catch them, which was meant to protect consumers from being ripped off by wealthy people? The whole thing is absolutely absurd. What happens here is you create a product that people want. Now, that product doesn't even have to be generating more revenue that than it's sending out. You could be running at a loss, but the product is the stock value of it. The product of SpaceX, just as the product of Tesla was the future earnings, the expected future earnings. So people looked at Tesla, and now they look at SpaceX. They go, oh, I think this is going to earn a lot of money over time. And I love that he has the Boring Company. That is so brilliant. What Musk has that any great entrepreneur has is he has vision and hard work and courage. Musk takes chances and he wins because he's good at identifying places where there is a lack of exploitation of value, where there are things that are not receiving the amount of value that they could. And this is how any great entrepreneur, any great business person, or any great person anywhere in any realm works. You could have a filmmaker who notices, those old science fiction movies in the 1930s used to be a lot of fun. Well, they're not fun anymore. What's going on with that? And then he makes a movie called Star Wars and becomes a force. The same is true in any realm, except possibly one, which is government. Because in government, you can rely on force. So Liz Warren can rely on force to get her way. She doesn't ever have to be creative or brave. Is anything Liz Warren does ever brave? Has she ever done anything courageous? Has she ever gone out on a limb? No, none of these people do that. What they do is they get in their echo chamber and scold other people and abuse people on a puritanical moral level to give them more power. No, the way to get real power is to do real things. And the way to get real, or I should say this, I should just limit it right here. The way to get real legitimate power, real moral power, real deserved power is to put beautiful, great things into the world so that people will appreciate those things and want those things and give you resources in return for them. That's not what's happening with the people in that rectangle with all the little boxes in it. They do not do that. All they do is stir up hatred And it's really rather sad and disgraceful. But everything that Elon Musk does creates value for somebody. And that's why he has $1 trillion. So when you say, let's hope he's the last trillionaire, what you're really saying is, let's limit things. Let's limit what the American people do. Let's limit what immigrants can do when they come to this country. Although he came during his college years, as I recall. But that's the whole point, is government creates limitations. Government doesn't build. The government doesn't expand. And the private sector, normal human beings, building, serving, and trading with one another, they're the ones who build all the good in the world, all of it. And that's why these people hate Elon Musk, because they cannot compete with him on the moral level. And yet they think that's exactly what they're doing.
Speaking of morals, I think this is extremely racist because technically Elon Musk is an African American because he was born in Africa and came to America, so he's an African American. And I think this is all just racism. They just don't like him because he's an African American. That's what I think.
That's a good take, I think. Yeah. Well, let me just get in here a little bit. But that tweet from Graham Plattner, the commie trying to get into the Senate, I don't think he'll get there. So he'll be a barely remembered footnote in political history. But why, as you said, Sam, why would you want Elon Musk to be the last trillionaire? Why wouldn't you want more trillionaires? How many jobs and shared wealth would America have today if we had 5 Elon Musks? The number of jobs, I mean, it's a conservative estimate that Elon Musk and his companies and the downstream economic effects of those have created hundreds of thousands of jobs in this country. What I would actually like less of are politicians who enter Washington, D.C. as thousandaires and after about a decade exit as millionaires. I think we should look into that. But part of the theme of this podcast today is the politics of envy. Seething rage and jealousy is very toxic, and frankly, it's anti-American. It just is. I mean, and it eventually leads to unrest and violence, which is what I think the left in this country obviously want. You can't have revolution without violence. And we already saw it, as I mentioned before, the vandalizing of Tesla dealerships everywhere, about a year ago. But, jealousy and envy and rage, they are poisonous to the human soul, and they're also poisonous to society. Elon Musk is not a villain. I think he's a hero. And if you don't want to call him a hero, you should at least just be neutral about him. The hatred, directed toward this man is completely unhinged, is being, again, exploited by the revolutionaries on the left that we have in this country. Elon Musk has harmed no one through his economic activity. He stole nothing from anyone. He's committed no fraud. He's not like a money speculator or a Bernie Madoff type. So there's no fraud here. He didn't steal taxpayer money either. This whole idea that Elon Musk's wealth was built on the back of the American taxpayer. The government paying you to rescue astronauts stuck on the International Space Station because another government contractor, Boeing, screwed up and can't get them home. That's not stealing from the American taxpayer. That's providing a service to the government. And that's actually very ethical. Elon Musk, I think, in my mind, really, he's Thomas Edison and Henry Ford all wrapped into one. There is a reason that Elon Musk named his car company after Nikola Tesla. Tesla was a genius, and the power brokers and the robber barons of his time crushed him and his ideas. Elon has never forgotten that. In fact, he admires that, and he is against that, of course. He's for innovation, and he is maniacally focused on achieving things that no businesses have ever accomplished before. I think it seems so routine now. I think people kind of lose sight of that. The things that are the ability to go up into space and to catch a rocket as it comes back, a reusable booster, that's like science fiction. And now it's routine. It's routine. And it's because one man was maniacally focused on making that happen. You may be jealous of Elon Musk. You may be jealous that you don't have that kind of drive in your own life, or you don't have that kind of wealth. But being jealous of those things just leads, it's the road to unhappiness and ruin for people and for countries.
How much of this do you think is, especially from someone like Elizabeth Warren or AOC or any of the other number of politicians who get wealthy in office, how much of this do you think is like projection? They know that they come by their wealth via sketchy means. And so they think that everyone else must also, especially if they have $1 trillion of net worth, boy, they really must have done something, evil or conniving or whatever in order to get that.
I think they consider themselves absolutely moral, and that they came by their wealth righteously. When you look at it, their whole premise is that whatever it takes to get things right, which is my way, it's okay. That's why lying and disrupting and paying people to wreck buildings and cars and to close down streets and to beat up people who have small businesses, those things all happen. That's what Antifa is all about. So these people, a Graham Plattner looks at his situation and goes, I'm good. I'm the good guy. I have great plans for the United States, and I'm going to make this place better. The fact that I lied about everything about myself, that I turned myself into an oyster man when in fact I come from wealthy white collar people, and I bought that oyster farm shortly after I applied to run for the Senate, that's all okay, because we need to get rid of the person who's already there, because she's a Republican and she's in the way of perfecting America. These people all think they're absolutely right. Liz Warren thinks she is making America a much better place. Barack Obama thought that. Al Gore did. They all do. The one that I would actually give a bit of a free ride to is Bill Clinton, because I don't think he believed in anything, and he was willing. That's why he was willing to work with Republicans. He had Dick Morris there saying, "No, Bill, here's what we do," and it worked out very well for him. If he could have, kept his morals in other areas of life, he would have been considered to be one of the greatest presidents. So these people, this is their problem, quite frankly, is they do think they are way better than everybody else. They're not only better than, let's say, a Christian baseball player who puts a piece of tape over a symbol on his hat that he doesn't believe in. They're better than that guy, even though he can really hit the ball or pitch it, whatever. They're better than that guy. They're better than Jalen Brunson, who just won the NBA championship and said that, no, he misses Texas because he doesn't like paying New York taxes. They're better than that. They're better than Donald Trump. They're better than Elon Musk. They're better than you, Jim. They're better than you, Chris. They're better than you, Linnea. They're better than I am. And they're better than this entire audience. They're better than the rest of us. That's how they see the world, that they are the best of the best. And they're not, and they don't even see it like I'm necessarily the best in talent. They're morally the best. And that is where the real danger to humanity comes from. People who think they're morally better than everybody else.
I just have a slightly different take on that, because I remember when Elizabeth Warren about 25 years ago was talking all about the two income trap and how she was so concerned about mothers having to go into the workforce, because she said that the post World War II economic model in which women were supposed to go into the workforce was actually hurting them. So I think these are very political animals, and they are just putting their finger in the air saying, oh, right now, at this exact point in time in 2026 summer, there's a big portion of Americans, because the schools have done such a terrible job, who think socialism is good. Therefore, we're just going to jump on that bandwagon. I personally don't think Elizabeth Warren really believes in socialism. AOC, I think, is dumb enough, so I think she probably does. But I do think that if someone like Elizabeth Warren knows socialism cannot work, but she just thinks, you know what, this is my fast track to political power. So that's why I think she's jumping on that bandwagon.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. It's just crazy. But it was very predictable because the last couple of years, the kind of socialist leanings have been, completely out. I mean, at least in the past, the Democrats have been pretty socialist for decades and decades. But at least for a while, they had to like kind of pretend like they weren't just going to confiscate people's property left and right, or
Not
that they didn't want.
necessarily. I mean, Bill Clinton came in and said the era of big government's over, and he, cut welfare benefits, and he balanced the budget. So, I mean, obviously things, they work like this. They ebb and flow. But I think that the current iteration of the Democratic Party, as we're seeing with the midterms a few months away, is now they are embracing socialism. But I just think when I was a kid growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, that the Democrats were not nearly as socialistic as they are now.
Yeah. Well, in any case, we did see during 2016 and stuff that it seemed like, Bernie Sanders. I mean, Bernie Sanders has been a senator for a long time, and he's a Democratic socialist and always has been. And he had a fairly decent chance at becoming president had not the DNC completely obliterated his chances. And
So he
kind
had
of
no chance.
conspired against him. So he had no chance in the end. But if it wasn't that the Democrat Party decided that Hillary Clinton was the way to go, and then later Biden was the way to go, he probably could have made a pretty fair effort. But yeah, it's the politics of envy, and also not for someone like Senator Warren, but for the average person, like you said, Chris, who isn't very well educated on socialism, and apparently also isn't very well educated on what someone's like net worth actually means. Because I was seeing commentary on Twitter and some other places of people saying, well, if they confiscated Elon Musk's wealth, then we'd be able to pay for all these different services and stuff, and we wouldn't have a social security problem. And my question to them would be, what do you mean? What do you mean if we confiscated his wealth? He doesn't have that. I mean, he does, but it's in the employees, it's in the companies that he has. What would confiscating this stuff look like?
Well, do you think it's fair to say that in the post 2008, 2009 financial crisis America, that the system is a little bit rigged, and that a lot of people do think that the American system is not working for them like it once did? Because I do think that's one of the reasons why Bernie Sanders came to prominence in the time period in which he did. And I think that Donald Trump had the same sort of message, but his was a much more free market, go back to American fundamental values and philosophies. I personally agree with that road. However, I do understand frustration, especially among young people, in my own family, who do think that the quote, game is rigged, because it is not working for them as it should.
The system is rigged. The excessive money expansion, I'm not going to get too deep into this, but just hang on one second. Excessive money expansion creates great wealth for those who already have money, because they get the shrunken money earlier, and they can benefit from it. That's a well-known economic fact, that inflation strengthens the concentration of wealth. And so we've been doing this since 2008. And that's the real problem here. The system is rigged. I don't know that it was necessarily deliberately rigged to benefit a few particular people. I don't think that's really quite what happened. I think that it was just real stupidity that did this, and absolute negligence. Because when you disconnect the dollar from reality, then reality is going to suffer. Because the dollar gives you your prices, and your prices give you the explanation of what something is worth, what it's really worth to people. And so producing goods and services, when you are making things for other people, you're trading it in terms of dollars. When you corrupt the dollar, And the dollar's been incredibly corrupted since 2008, in particular, the near zero interest rate system. When you do that, you create bad signals. And those bad signals lead to this concentration of wealth that I mentioned and that we're all talking about. So the system does that. There are ways of turning that around, and I've written and spoken here about those ways we can do things. But the number one thing you cannot do is to put together everybody and say that anyone who has created wealth in the system or earned wealth in the system is part of the corruption. That's not necessarily true. Now, people point out that Elon Musk took advantage of the laws and mandates that people should buy electric vehicles. Yes, other people were trying to do that too, though. They weren't as good at it as Elon Musk. And Elon Musk, frankly, now is taking advantage of the ineptness of government in space. So these are all things where he is doing things that people want, even that people in the government want. And he's just doing them better than everybody else. There's a big difference between that and just moving money around faster than the inflation can hit everybody else. Now, so we do have a corrupt system. We do have a rigged system. There are ways to fix it. And I've talked about these ways regularly. Number one, lower government spending by far and lower government regulation by far. And that includes the Consumer Financial Protection Board that Liz Warren designed. So all of these things work together to create a low trust society, to create a society in which everything you do is suspect. So you look at a successful person from a particular ethnic group. People say, well, that person just got a break. They got a break. I wouldn't have been able to get that. It may even be true, but we don't know that. We don't know anything anymore because the way the government works is it corrupts the information that we receive because it corrupts the marketplace itself fundamentally. So that's why people are so concerned about affordability. I've pointed out that affordability was created, the affordability gap was created by the government. So these problems that we have are real. And the rise in inequality is real. It's not as big in America as people tend to think. If you look, there's a thing called the Pareto measure, and it measures inequality. And it's really not, it's really quite decent here in America right now. There are a few people that are extremely wealthy, no question about it. But they're not the problem. The problem is the Puritan, better than us people who regulate everything and are inept because they have nobody calling them to account. That is what really must change.
Yeah. I mean, if more money could solve all these problems that Elizabeth Warren and other people want to solve, I don't know. Maybe we'd have seen some small sign that these problems could be addressed with more money when the budget was only $4 trillion a year, or maybe $6 trillion a year. You know, maybe show me a little bit of progress when we're spending $4 trillion instead of going up to 7. And now we are going to seize the wealth that doesn't really exist in physical form of Elon Musk to solve these problems again. Linnea, you asked, like, how would they go about that? They would go about that the way all commies go about it, at the point of a gun. That's ultimately how it would have to happen. I mean, it's not going to happen, not in this country. But
yeah, nationalize Tesla.
Yeah, nationalize Tesla. You'll have the world's most expensive, driveway paperweight, I guess.
Boy, that would really be a Ouroboros, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
a company that probably for the most part exists based off of subsidies and mandates, owned by government.
Yeah.
Would be.
Yeah, I mean, well, Elizabeth Warren said that if Elon Musk would only pay my ultra millionaire wealth tax, we could pay for childcare for all 3- and 4-year-olds in America. I mean this sincerely. If you actually believe a statement like that, especially coming from someone like Elizabeth Warren, I don't know, don't participate in our democracy, to be honest, because everybody and anybody with a brain, a brain operating well enough to participate in the future of this country and making those decisions would have to know that, okay, let's say there was $1 trillion for this pet program that she wants to do. We all know that 80% of it would be stolen. And there'd be all this grifts and kickbacks. And you probably end up at about 7 3-year-olds and 5 4-year-olds getting daycare. But that's even putting aside the fact that the federal government and our tax money should not be providing daycare for people. That's a completely different issue. But as we're having this discussion, I remember now why especially Democrats hate with the heat of 1,000 suns passion, why they hate Elon Musk. Doge exposed the entire grift in a way that was never exposed to Americans before. We all had our suspicions about these things, but the Department of Government Efficiency, using AI, using all these AI nerd kids, to pull up the hood and look underneath and try to actually figure out what's going on in this big labyrinthine, confusing mess and where all the money is going, because that helped convince Trump to shut off entirely the USAID spigot. And that was nothing but an enormous billions and billions of dollars in money laundering from Democratic politicians and their supporters. And round it goes. And so if you wonder why somebody can come into office, like, I don't know, Ilhan Omar, with a net worth of about $70,000, and then 10 years later have a net worth of $10 million, it's this sort of thing. It's because of this. I have a strong suspicion it's because of this. But USAID was nothing but a social program for Democrats and their supporters, and for get out the vote stuff, and for things internationally. Doge is why they hate Elon, with that kind of a passion. And so, mystery solved.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Well, guys, I'm going to move us along to our next topic here. And whoops. The next couple of weeks here, as we lead up to the 250th anniversary of the United States' Declaration of Independence, I really wanted to have some positivity towards the end of the shows, especially since, on this show, we talk about economics, we talk about all of that stuff, big tech, AI taking over the world, whatever it is. It's all very bummer, frankly.
No, God!
Very much a bummer. But recently on Twitter, there has been, and also just across Instagram and all sorts of other social media sites, there's been kind of this bright shining little light here. And I never thought I would say this about this particular topic, but Patrick Snow from Heartland Impact wrote a really great op-ed on this, and we thought that this topic would be a nice lighthearted thing to share with you guys. Apparently, some kind of soccer tournament is happening. I don't know. I thought soccer was a sport for kids to play after church, but anyway, it's got the South crawling with European tourists who are, for the very first time, experiencing things like Bass Pro Shops and the Redneck Riviera, and very importantly, Buc-ee's. Patrick Snow writes, a German soccer fan named Freddie walked into a Waffle House at 1 a.m. You would think that this was the start to something terrible happening, but right. Ordered a hash brown bowl and gave it a perfect score. Since then, 7 million people have seen the post. The 2026 World Cup brought European tourists to our doorstep, and they can't stop talking about the awesome time they're having. A Swedish visitor named Elsa went viral marveling at ranch dressing and the simple sight of a yellow school bus. A Scottish fan named Sean documented being welcomed to a Texas barbecue and put American mac and cheese near the top of his all-time foods list. Another German fan watched a military flyover before a match and admitted, in the meme-centric phrasing, that the European mind cannot comprehend it. Here's the part that shouldn't be overlooked. Everything our new European friends are experiencing is a result of America's economic freedom. Buc-ee's wasn't designed by the government. Thank God. No central planner mandated 120 gas pumps, freshly made brisket, and a home goods section full of affordable tchotchkes. The European mind struggles to comprehend American abundance because the European economic model is not built to produce it. When you tax and regulate the life out of an economy, you don't get Buc-ee's. You get a tiny petrol station with 2 pumps and a bathroom that costs €1 to use. The best real-world example of this contrast is that the average person living in America's poorest state, which I believe is Mississippi, has a higher income and greater purchasing power than the average EU resident. Abundance is the byproduct of human innovation, made possible only when the government gets out of the way. Our vast resources were not handed to us by the state. They were cultivated by the greatest American minds over the past 250 years. As we approach America's 250th birthday, we should reflect on this lesson. Being American is more than simply living here. It means embracing a culture of freedom, abundance, and neighborly generosity that no other nation has matched. These European visitors now understand, perhaps better than we do, that the everyday conveniences we shrug at are things the rest of the world only dreams of. And I'll add here, besides Patrick's writing, that I think only America could have produced the world's first trillionaire as well, not counting Zimbabwe. The greatest country ever conceived did not happen by chance. It was a vision of the founding fathers who valued liberty above all else. Our job is to remember that and to keep choosing the freedom that made the abundance possible. Welcome to America, Freddie. Grab a big gulp. The refills are free. What a great article. I strongly recommend you guys go look for this article. It's called The European Mind is Beginning to Comprehend America, and it's over at Red State. Fantastic piece by our friend Patrick from Heartland Impact. So we have a couple of clips of some of the European tourists that have gone viral. They're fantastic. They're heartwarming. So we can go, let's see. Let me see which one. Which one do we want first?
Yeah, let's go with Buc-ee's French comedian.
Okay.
This is a comedian. This is not an actual review of Buc-ee's, but I think it's hilarious and it's actually pretty representative of most Europeans' reactions to going to a Buc-ee's that I have seen.
End of the world in the US, and it's called Buc-ee's. They say it's a gas station, but that's a lie. A gas station has a sad sandwich and a coffee machine that never works. This place has 120 pumps. 120. Why? Are you refueling the US Air Force? Are you preparing for an alien invasion? That's terrifying. And the mascot is a beaver in a baseball cap. I saw grown men taking photos with a statue of a rodent. In France, we have revolutions. In the US, you bow down to a squirrel on steroids. And inside, the aggression. A man with a knife screaming, fresh brisket on the board. Sir, calm down. I just want sparkling water. Don't kill me. But I have a problem. I wanted to hate it. I wanted to be the superior Frenchman snob. But then I ate the beaver nuggets. I don't know what is in them. I think it's sugar, butter, and pure methamphetamine. I ate one, then I had the whole bag in the parking lot like a wild animal. And the toilets, I have to admit it, but they are nicer than my apartment. You could eat the brisket off the floor in the bathroom. It's cleaner than the hospital. So I have failed. I came to judge and I stayed for the snacks. I don't have the hat, but in my heart, I am wearing the hat. God bless the beaver.
Good
So real.
Get that for us. That's great.
That is what Buc-ee's is about. Buc-ee's is not about the pumps. It's not about the food. It is about clean bathrooms at a rest stop. Amazing.
For sure.
All right. We also have a video here. American Brit or America Brit.
I've been lied to my entire life about America.
America, it is happening. Do you see it? People who aren't American who have travelled to the World Cup are realising they've been lied to. Before travelling to America, foreigners would just think America is this place they would hear about on the news all the time. It's a horrible place. But when you strip that back, like I've been doing for years, travelling America, so many different states, you realise the beauty of America, the different cultures, how amazing the people are. And the World Cup has allowed people outside of America to see America through their own eyes, not through their country's media eyes. This is incredible, and I couldn't be happier for America. The world is realising when you strip back the negativity you get and you realise how beautiful America really is. It is the best. It is the reason it is my favourite country on planet Earth. Every state is like its own country. You have so many different cultures, so much beautiful scenery, and people are realising it. People are finally realising it. And I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier for America and Americans. America, I'm so happy for you. Yes! Yes!
All right. So that's just wonderful. I saw someone, I don't remember who it was that made this comment, somewhere on Twitter, X, whatever it's called. They said that the reason why this particular situation is different from all the other times that Europeans come and visit America is that the World Cup is forcing Europeans to go to Alabama and Texas and
Kansas City.
Yeah, Kansas City, like flyover country parts of the country. And normally when Europeans visit here, they're going to Los Angeles, they're going to New York, they might go to Yellowstone maybe. But for the most part, they don't get to see like, I don't know, Picayune. But now they're getting to see Picayune and they're having a great time. And it's wonderful because, you know, our cities are rotting. And so if you come to the United States and all you've ever seen is our cities, then you would think that this country is a dour, unfortunate kind of place, unless you have enough money to be, you know, in the really fancy parts of our cities. But if you don't, then the culture is crumbling into pieces there. Which is very sad because, you know, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles used to be centers of culture, not just for the United States, but for the entire world. But that's changed. Our centers of culture are now coming from more rural parts of the country. You know, especially once you move to the South in particular, and Chris knows this, there is an entire other world when you see what like the Southern approach to college football is. For example, it's a little bit cultish. It's a little bit insane. You know, these Europeans are getting to see us like release bald eagles before the start of football games and fly over of B-2 bombers and all sorts of stuff. It's just awesome.
I would go a step further. I think that when Europeans visit places like New York City, Chicago, even LA, DC, Baltimore, that they're probably greeted by some pretty rude people. And I know I'm generalizing here. I'm painting with my broad brush, you know, tisk. But in the South, in general, people are very nice. People have a smile on their face. People want to talk to you. That is very different from places like New York City, where it's just get out of my way. It's all about me. So that's something that I do miss a little bit. I mean, I've told you about this. I miss Bluffton and the little bit more slow lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. It's extremely pretty. It's not nearly as dilapidated as some of the places around me are. There's much more open, wide space. It's peaceful. I'm so glad that the people of Europe, and not even just Europe, but just people all around the world, are going to places like that and seeing it and experiencing real Americana, because that is really, you know, America's about. America's not about the French Laundry. America is about the Waffle House. Okay, so I'm so glad. I am. No, for real, seriously.
No, you're so right. I'm just laughing because
Yeah.
it's just so funny to think of.
Yeah.
You know, like American culture is like experiencing going to Waffle House at like 11:30 at night.
I have had some great times at Waffle House in the middle of the night, driving, you know, across the country. You meet cool people. They're down to earth. So I'm really glad. And, you know, I've said this many times on this podcast, but I have a lot of family in Europe, and I am so sick and tired of them saying how much better Germany is and how much cleaner and this, that, and the other thing, when they don't even have air conditioning. We have air conditioning. So how about that?
Yeah.
You know, I hope that I hope that the presidential administration in 2028 will work on the visas for people who are going to the Olympics in Los Angeles. I think that you should only be issued a visa, if you're from Europe in particular, if you will be spending equal amount of time in a decent place in a red state. Because otherwise you're just going to get a horrible impression of the United States, and all the goodwill that we've had will be diminished and destroyed. That's my
Yeah.
policy idea.
Well, America is awesome, and that's what that Brit doing that sit-down video said, or in his car video. But one of the important things that he said there was that Europeans now, because they've just been, fanned out across America. If you want to follow your team, you have to drive from, say, Miami to Kansas City, so you got to drive through the South, right? And you see all that, and they're just amazed. Or you have to drive across the Midwest. I saw a video of a European driving across Indiana, and it said, this is exactly as I imagined America would be. Beautiful rolling farmland. I know you're in Indiana, Sam. And it's that iconic thing. And I think a lot of us kind of take that for granted. But I think one of the most important things he said was that so many Europeans are now seeing America through their own eyes and not those of their media. And frankly, not through the eyes of Hollywood, which often in the products they send out to the world mocks or looks down at flyover country and the people who live there. And so instead, they're stopping at a Buc-ee's and meeting ordinary, Texans, or meeting somebody, for the first time, and everybody's friendly. They can tell they're a World Cup soccer fan. We're not all rubes here. We understand there's a major international golf or soccer tournament going on.
There is a big golf tournament coming out too.
Yeah, well, when we see people, in their kits, we understand. We're not dumb. We understand those people are Europeans, probably. But it just, these people are falling in love with this country just by driving across it, which I think every American falls in love with their country that's the great American road trip. Half the point or more of the point is just the getting there and the drive. And it just warms my heart as an American to hear these things. I can't get enough of watching these videos of people having such a great time. And I think my favorite group of Europeans right now has to be the Scots, who Scotland was playing their first World Cup match in Boston. And the Scots, God bless them, they drank Boston dry. That takes some doing. I read that the pub that first had Samuel Adams Boston Lager ran out of Sam Adams. That had never happened before. I saw a story of where refrigerators in bars were breaking because they had to open and close it so often to get in there and get more beer out for the Scots that they have to get their refrigerators repaired. I saw a clip of Scots in the concourse. They all went to a bunch of them went to a Red Sox game, and they were all in the concourse, I believe, at Fenway Park singing "Take Me Home, Country Roads." Mm-hmm. And they got to it was beautiful. It was so beautiful. I almost crying thinking about it. The Scots had a parade with the Scottish drums and the bagpipes walking all the way to Fenway Park from where most of them were gathered, and a police officer who was going with them ran to the front of the line and said, no, you got to go down this street. You're going the wrong way. And they all just peacefully went like that and had a great time. And then my favorite, we have a clip of it. I insist on playing it. It's only 17 seconds, but at a Red Sox game where the Scots were there during the commercial break, they played that great song by the Proclaimers, the great Scottish pop band, 500 Miles. And the song is longer than the commercial break, but the Scots there didn't care. They kept singing the song while the baseball game started up again. So can you play that Red Sox game clip for us, please, Andy?
What a night. Just a brilliant group of people. Still singing from the break. The song's been over for minutes.
We know how to have fun.
Yes, there's the da-da-da-da for the Proclaimers, which is the most Scottish song ever. There's the greatest Scottish accent ever in a pop song. I mean, look, that just warms my heart. July, the Independence Day is coming, and I think there's nothing better right now than to have all of these people who are not Americans come visit our country as we celebrate our 250th birthday, and they'll be here for weeks. And they have more of an appreciation for the greatness and goodness of this country. And frankly, many Americans do. It's humbling, but gosh, it warms my heart to see this. It really does.
I love watching or looking at that German guy, the Freddy's account. One, of course, because he's kind of blown up and gone viral. Like all of these different sports teams and stuff are giving him the absolute royal treatment for coming and watching their games, which of course is a great experience for this guy. But I love, I had a particularly strong reaction to him posting like 8 times about how impressed he was with like Alabama and Mississippi beaches, like, and like Mobile and the Mississippi Gulf Coast area, Redneck Riviera stuff, because like Americans will be like, it's not Clearwater. Oh, it's not the Keys, blah, blah, blah. But here's this German being like, this mucky beach is the best thing I've ever seen. And loving like the Bass Pro Shops. And of course, before the show started, I said it was a shame that he didn't get to the Memphis one. That's literally just like a giant pyramid. But you know, it's so heartwarming to see. And it kind of reminds you, it's like, oh, actually, you know, we get so snobbish about ourselves, or like kind of putting our own country down. You know, parts of the country that, you know, you're like, oh, well, I can go vacation in a better spot. Like where I live now, the beaches in Beaufort and Hilton Head and those kind, it's not clear water, like pretty beaches or whatever, but tons and tons of people internationally come here too, and they love it. There's like a lot of Brits here for whatever reason. But Doug says no one was worried about climate change. Yeah, and those Germans, I thought they might die in the heat waiting outside in line, but they seem to have survived. Helps that we actually have air conditioning in our stadiums as well. But the amazing thing to me is looking at our country through the eyes of people who don't see it every day, and seeing them just be like in awe. Someone said it reminded them of the I forget what particular Soviet leader's name this is, but when he came and like looked at our grocery stores and was like in tears over our grocery stores from the Soviet Union, it's remarkable. And you just don't get to experience that about your own home all that often. So it's been really fun. I'm making jokes about soccer and how I don't respect it, but this has been an overall beneficial event for us, I think. Nothing?
Nope.
All right.
I've talked a lot.
Okay.
I wanted to let Chris and Sam get in there and say something, but
Yeah. All right. Well,
played it out.
I'll move us along here though, because this actually, once again, I attempted to relate our final topic, our countdown to 250 topic, to our previous one, which is on, you know, these Europeans seeing our like real rural culture, you know, our national mythology, the anecdotes from that multi-year war and the decades leading up to it highlight what's important to us. What survives from that time period highlights like what our values are as Americans. So today I want to talk about one of the stories that we've preserved, one that every single one of us in the United States learned in elementary school, alongside those like simplified caricatures of Columbus in 1492 and the Pilgrims at Plymouth and the first Thanksgiving and George Washington and the Delaware and all of that stuff. And so we have a little bit of a poem written by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, which is probably the reason why Paul Revere's story in particular survived this whole time. A little snippet from it is: 1, if by land, and 2, if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be, ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm, for the country folk to be up and to arm. And we all had to read that poem in elementary school, and in some cases memorize parts of it. That little bit of it where it says 1 if by land and 2 if by sea is probably the part that I remember the best. But anyway, this story, we know how it went. But some of us might not have known is that Revere was a silversmith, and he was also a member of the Sons of Liberty. He was a coordinator of the Boston Tea Party, and he most famously, of course, was a courier for Patriot forces even before the war actually began. So, April 18th, 1775, the British were planning to go and destroy Continental supplies and weapons that were being stashed at Concord. It was also believed that John Hancock and Sam Adams were going to be arrested in Lexington. And they would be targets in general of a British raid on Lexington. So this night of April 18th is considered by some scholars to be the real first start of the Revolutionary War. Revere traveled rapidly from Boston to Lexington, and he was warning people in towns along the way and successfully got to Adams and Hancock. And supposedly one of the night watchmen at the house that they were staying at scolded Revere when he rode up, for making so much noise and shouting and stuff when people were trying to sleep inside. And Revere goes, "Noise? You'll have noise enough before long. The regulars are coming." And that's where the British are coming stuff comes from. Revere, unfortunately, was stopped by the British near Lincoln. But the Midnight Ride wasn't just about the heroism of Revere. It was actually that it's an icon of that kind of classical American culture where neighbors are helping their neighbors out. They're not leaving anyone to dry. There are a ton of people who were involved in the Alert Network. It never would have worked if when Revere or the other riders rode into town, people, looked out their windows and kind of shrugged and went back to bed. It was a massive relay, basically. Every town had people run out of their homes ringing church bells and firing guns, and then they would send people on short missions to warn people who lived at farmsteads far out in the countryside and in the rural areas. There were multiple riders carrying the same message on different routes to make sure that as many people as possible were alerted and to make sure that news reached Concord, even if one of them was captured, as Revere ended up being captured. So when the British finally did get there, they found that the colonial forces were ready for them, and the Battle of Lexington happened the very next day. And even afterwards, and this is kind of fun, and once again, reminds us of kind of the American spirit. The British were shot at and harassed by guerrillas along the country roads everywhere they went throughout the countryside. And I bring this up because this image is just so American. And I think that we forget some of that. And I especially think after COVID, we've kind of lost this character. And I think the COVID pandemic didn't cause it, but it highlighted that we had lost some of this character. I think particularly to the idea of people calling the cops on their neighbors for having too many cars in their driveway during lockdown or whatever. It's kind of it's this, like I said, highlight of American culture and of the American ethos. Each one of the things that we preserve from our founding, all these different small anecdotes. Paul Revere's story is important, but it's not, it wouldn't have been preserved the way it was had it been less emblematic of the American spirit early on. And I wanted to highlight this one because it is one of the most iconic stories of the American Revolution. And I thought that it was a really good example of the countryside neighborly ethos that America used to really be, kind of famous for. But I'm afraid sometimes that it's lost. But the recent stuff with the World Cup reminded me of this, and it's been a real joy to watch.
Well, simply put, Paul Revere was a hero because had he got captured, he would have been killed. And you're right. He did save the American Revolution, arguably, because the Redcoats were coming. And he did warn some very important leaders to get out of the way and flee. And he did it in the nick of time. So had that famous ride not happened, who knows what the outcome would have been, but it probably wouldn't have been as good for America as it turned out to be. And then, so Linnea, I think you bring up such an interesting point about neighborliness and community and communication, all that. And I can't help but wonder if the technology has been a big part of that. Because guess what Paul Revere had to do? He had to go ride and show face to face, this is what's happening. He didn't just text everybody on a text chain. So I worry, I guess, if the technology that we become so accustomed to is actually driving us farther apart, making us lonely, or making us more stressed, depressed, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I've read books about this, and especially for younger Americans, I think this is something that they're going to really have to deal with. I've said this also a lot of times in this podcast that I'm very glad I grew up when I did before the screen invasion. I remember when, if you wanted to go get all the kids in the neighborhood together to go play baseball, what would we do? We'd hop on our bikes and just do it. We didn't text. There was none of that stuff. So it was just a different era. It was, I think, in many ways, more neighborly. I don't know if we're going to go back to that, though. That's what's kind of
Yeah.
sad.
Several years ago, I learned, probably watching like Food Channel thing or History Channel thing, that there's like a tavern tour of Paul Revere's ride, because of course, you know, he'd stop briefly at taverns as he went along, and maybe had a sip along the way, and pubs and stuff. And what better places to spread news, you know, late at night, especially back then, than the local taverns and stuff, which were community gathering places as well as watering holes. But
and rooming houses too.
And rooming houses as well.
Where a lot of
So they were-
travelers went. Yeah,
that's where everyone was. And so, and I believe that the rooming house like that was a place that Adams and Hancock were hiding
Yes.
out at the time as well. So it's just, you know, they say that Gen Z is like the least likely generation to go out to a bar or something with friends. They drink a lot less than previous generations and stuff. And it's not that, you know, you don't have to be a lush. You don't have to be a lush to be an American, a good American. But and of course we had many great Puritan Americans as well. But
Gen Z is just making sure there's enough for Scotland when they visit.
yeah, exactly. But it makes me wonder again, you know, if there's like a emergency or something like that, you know, you are spreading the news at these you know, community gathering places and stuff. We have the internet now, but if the internet was all of a sudden gone for whatever reason, like if they turned off the electricity and our signals or something, what on earth would we do?
I'll tell you just a quick example. When I was a kid and we had a day off of school, you know what we did? It was our job to call the next person in the phone book with the last name after us, because there was no internet. There was no central like hub to get all the information out. So that, I think, helped cultivate relationships, because I can't remember who was the person in the name in the, you know, school directory after me, but I probably called and, you know, interacted with them several times during the year just to make information, because it was, you know, that's how we got information and announcements and stuff. So, Jim, you live in a house. I live in an apartment building, so it's a little bit different. But I do remember when I was in a home with, you know, a bunch of neighbors, we all looked out for each other's homes. If I forgot my key, I could go over to Jane next door and she would always give me an extra key. I don't have that sort of connection with many of my neighbors now, because it's just a little bit different. But I was just wondering if you have that in your neighborhood.
Oh, 100% have that in my neighborhood. My neighbors on each side of me, we get along just great. You know, we watch their cats. They watch our cats when we're gone. Other neighbor, we're, you know, borrowing tools from each other and helping each other out and keeping an eye on each other's homes when people are away. And we, you know, we share drinks and lunch and other things together. It's, you know, it's that sense of community that makes all the difference. And, you know, Linnea, you're right. I mean, obviously it was very different back then, but it was because of that shared sense of community that it made it so that Paul Revere was able to finish his ride without being caught and killed. That's a big part of it.
Well, Revere didn't finish. Revere didn't make it all the way. He did get captured. There was only one person in their party that made it, and Revere was not him. But his I guess the reason why his story survives above all the others is because of the others in his group, is because he was a son of liberty, and he was like making silver etch pamphlets and stuff for like anti-British propaganda purposes. So he was kind of well known for that, which is, I guess that's probably why. But yeah, he didn't make it actually.
Yeah,
but
yes, you're right. Of course, I meant the mission being a success is what I was getting at. So, yeah, I think this actually ties back to our wonderful good news discussion about all these Europeans visiting America and discovering it's not just they don't. If you watch these videos, they're not hard to find. They don't just talk about the fact that Buc-ee's has 120 pumps, although they're amazed at that. It's not just that they can go to a Waffle House at 3 a.m. and get a waffle and you know, smothered and covered hash browns and all of that good stuff. It's their experience among Americans and our real genuine warmth toward our fellow man, but especially visitors in this country, in regular America, not necessarily in New York City and in a lot of the other, in Los Angeles, and especially not in Washington, D.C. I lived in all these places, but it's that, it's that warmth, that human warmth of America that we are so welcoming. And we are, as we're coming up to our 250th birthday of trying to, rebelling and rejecting and kicking out eventually the most powerful nation on earth, and maybe in proportion, maybe the strongest nation, single political entity on earth since the Roman Empire, and kicking them out of this continent, and doing it in the span of 4 years, because we valued our liberty and the idea of property rights above all else. And Chris, you mentioned this, each one of the founding fathers, everybody in those iconic paintings that you see in Washington, D.C. and other places of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, it wasn't just bluster to say they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honors. They all would have been hung summarily, maybe even without a trial. As Benjamin Franklin famously said, we all hang together, or we're for sure going to hang separately. So it seems to never be emphasized enough what that generation was willing to risk for their own lives, to better their own lives, and that we are the inheritors of that. If you read history, sometimes it's really hard to imagine a modern human being to put themselves in the time of even just a few hundred years ago, let alone 4,000 years ago. Humans and our brains and our desires and our urges and our instincts are the same 300 years ago as they were 1,000 years ago. So if you were somehow magically dropped in there, you might speak a different dialect, you might not understand every word that is spoken, but it is still, humanity has not changed in that way. When I was a kid, I used to, I'd love to have a time machine because I would just love to go back and spend a week. I used to love the show Quantum Leap. I would just want to spend a week in revolutionary Boston. I won't change the timeline. I'll be very low key, but I want to walk around and see and hear what's happening here. It's just amazing. I know, Chris, you love American history because you taught it in school, but to me, this is such a special time because I love my country, and I love the good hearts that are in so many Americans and so many other fellow human beings, and it just fills my brain with information and my heart with joy.
So I just want to highlight real quick that this is why America is not a nanny state. We depend on each other, and that is so much more powerful, so much better than depending on a government like they do in Europe, where the government will take care of me. The government will make sure. The government can't. In America, as Alexis de Tocqueville said, we are just a bunch of tinkerers who get together and we inform one another. And Paul Revere, I view him as almost like the godfather of that. And like Jim said, the founding generation, they put everything on the line, and they had everything that they could, be put on the line because they were wealthy landowners. They were, powerful people, but they said, you know what? We believe so much in the power of freedom and liberty that we are going to put our lives on the line. And thank God that they did it, because 250 years later, we would not live in the country that we are living in. We would not have the technologies and the innovations and all the awesome things, the life-saving medical discoveries. It wouldn't be here without America. I hope people realize that.
I think the very popularity of Longfellow's poem is emblematic, until the last few decades, is emblematic of what it's about, which is that you have a very ordinary bourgeois person who's just a hardworking individual who does good things for his neighbors, and they pay him for it. And he becomes not wealthy, just ordinary, a regular person, a member of the bourgeoisie. And he's a courier. He's not a soldier out there stabbing people with the bayonet or shooting at them. He's just a courier. And that's what America really is about. That people of seemingly humble backgrounds, and indeed humble backgrounds, can do incredibly momentous things. They can become trillionaires in moral terms. That is the greatness of America. And I think that I'm glad you went to this poem as your way of introducing Paul Revere, Linnea, because this poem tells it all. It's, yes, there's a little compression in there. It's good compression. It enables people to see that one simple person like themselves could do incredibly great, momentous things. And that's how you get from a little gas station with a coffee pot that doesn't work to Buc-ee's. That's what America's all about. And that's where, and that's what I think, that's what those Europeans are seeing. They're seeing that America, the America that is all about regular people doing extraordinary things because their world enables them to do that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sam. And that is all the time we have, unfortunately, for today. Thank you, everyone, for your attention to these matters. We are live every week on Thursdays at noon Central on Rumble, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Jim, what do you have for our audience today?
Nothing. We have no Climate Realism show tomorrow on Friday because we are off on Friday, but the Climate Realism show will be back the following Friday, and we hope to see you there as well as for this show a week from today.
Yes. Chris?
Please go to heartland.org. We got a bunch of new articles and good stuff posted there. And Stopping Socialism, please go visit.
And Sam?
I'm encouraging people to go to Red State, to the Heartland Institute page. We have some really good articles there, and that's where Patrick Snow's terrific article from which you read is to be found. And then, of course, go to stkarnick.substack.com, promote it, get people interested in it, and these ideas will get out there even more of the public.
All right. For audio listeners, please rate us well on whatever service you're using and leave a review. Thank you so much to all of our panelists and also, of course, to our viewers. We will see you again next week.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!